Imagine waking up before dawn without really knowing why. No alarm, no noise, just a strange feeling that something isn't right. Now imagine you're a German army major standing at the top of a bunker on the coast of occupied France, and that this feeling is about to change everything you thought you knew about the war. This actually happened, and the man who lived it was Werner Pluskat. It was June 6, 1944. The coast of Normandy in northern France was covered in fog and cold wind. The sea crashed hard against the cliffs. The sky was still heavy, with no sign of sunrise. To anyone looking from the outside, it seemed like just another ordinary wartime morning. Silent, cold, nothing unusual. Pluskat was a major in the German 352nd Infantry Division, positioned at a strategic point above Omaha Beach, a place that meant nothing to the world at that moment, but within hours would become one of the most defining names of the 20th century. He was part of something called the Atlantic Wall. Since Germany occupied France in 1940, the military command had spent years building a defensive line along the entire Western European coast, reinforced concrete bunkers, heavy cannons aimed at the sea, machine gun nests placed on high ground, minefields buried in the sand, and metal obstacles on the beaches designed to destroy any approaching boats. It stretched over 2,500 kilometers, a massive wall built on a simple idea. If anyone tried to invade Europe by sea, they would face hell before even touching the sand. The problem is, even the greatest wall in the world is useless if you don't know where the enemy will strike. The German command was almost certain that when the Allies invaded, they would choose the shortest route, Pas de Calais. It made perfect strategic sense, and the Allies knew that, so they turned that logic into a weapon. A secret operation called Fortitude became one of the most elaborate deception plans ever executed. Inflatable rubber tanks were placed across England, visible enough to fool reconnaissance. Fake radio transmissions simulated troop movements that didn't exist. An entire fictional army group was created on paper, supposedly led by General George Patton, one of the most respected commanders of the war. In reality, it was all an illusion designed to keep Germany focused on the wrong location. And it worked. For months, German attention remained fixed on Pas de Calais, while Normandy stayed secondary. Meanwhile, across the English Channel, something historic was taking shape. Operation Overlord had been planned for months. It involved forces from more than 12 countries. Over 156,000 soldiers would land on the Normandy coast on the very first day. Nearly 7,000 vessels were assembled. Warships, destroyers, cargo ships, and the famous landing crafts that dropped their front ramps onto the beach. It was the largest naval invasion force ever assembled, and that night it was moving slowly across the channel toward Normandy. Pluskat still had no idea. He woke up early for no clear reason, took his binoculars, left the warmth of the bunker, and stepped into the observation post. The sea was dark, the horizon barely visible. He adjusted the focus and looked. At first, nothing, just the ocean blending into the cloudy sky. Then he saw something, small dark shapes appearing far in the distance. He adjusted again. They didn't disappear. They grew. 5 or 6 shapes turned into 10, then 20, 50, 100. The more he looked, the more appeared, until the entire horizon, everything his binoculars could reach, was filled with ships, warships, destroyers, troop transports, boats of every size moving toward the coast. At that exact moment, Werner Pluskat was looking at nearly 5,000 vessels forming the vanguard of Operation Overlord. He rushed to the radio and tried to report what he was seeing, but something unexpected happened. Even after the sighting was reported, some commanders hesitated. The deception was still working. Months of believing the real attack would come through Pas de Calais made them question whether this was just a diversion, a trap. While that debate unfolded in command rooms, the Allied fleet kept moving. That hesitation cost precious time, and in an operation of that scale, time was everything. Soon after, the silence of the morning was shattered. Allied ships opened fire on coastal defenses. Explosions struck bunkers, artillery positions, and fortified lines along the beaches. Aircraft filled the sky. Paratroopers had already been dropped hours earlier inland to disrupt reinforcements. Then the first waves of soldiers approached the beaches. 5 landing zones: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword, each with a specific role in a plan built over months. Omaha was the most brutal. The very beach where Pluskat was positioned. Defenses there were among the strongest, and the first soldiers faced immediate fire before even reaching the sand. The human cost was immense, but they kept advancing. By the end of June 6, 1944, over 100,000 Allied soldiers had landed in Normandy. Losses were heavy on both sides, but the objective was achieved. A foothold in France had been secured. The liberation of Western Europe had begun. Werner Pluskat survived the war. Years later, in interviews, he described that moment at the bunker window as something that never left his mind. The sight of a fleet that seemed endless. And it makes sense, because in that instant, holding a pair of binoculars on a cold morning, he wasn't just looking at ships. He was witnessing the exact moment the course of World War II began to change. Not in a command room, not on a map, but on a horizon filled with ships moving silently through the fog of Normandy. Sometimes history doesn't warn you before it arrives. It simply appears on the horizon.